There is a 5th Black Ops Zombies map beyond that which is well known to man. It is a map as tiny as a molecule and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between enjoyment and misfortune, and it lies between the pit of a player's fears and the summit of his skill. This is the map of innovation. It is an area which we call Shangri-La. Shangri-La released as part of a DLC 3 for Black Ops 1 back on June 28, 2011. At the time, I had just started my summer break and was ready to kick ass and take names on a brand spanking new map. The only problem was that all my teammates kinda sucked. People often forget that it was legitimately tough to find someone who was decent at zombies back in the day. I had one friend who was pretty good, but he would disconnect at like round 3 every time we tried playing Shang. And really my only other option was playing with my buddy Paperdeer14. Heaven help me whenever I had to resort to that. Anyways, Shangri-La had a lot of unique features, including the water slide and geysers, which made for very quick navigation. And oh, who could forget the ever so important minecart as well. There's also these little hairy bastards who take your item drops, but I'll talk about them a bit later. Usually in public polls and YouTube rankings for zombies maps, Shang is typically rated towards the bottom of those lists.
What a heavy load Einstein must have had. Fucking morons everywhere.
Admittedly, Shang is a pretty unpleasant map to play with randoms, as you can't even pack a punch without everyone's synchronized cooperation, so it's always been pretty unpopular from a public lobby standpoint. But other than that, I would say that the map's challenge and layout makes it stand out from a lot of subsequent maps. So while it might not rank at the tippity top for me, I do think it's a top 10 map. Then again, I think my top 10 list would consist of nothing but Black Ops 1 maps. There are a few reasons why people usually cite Shang as being one of the most difficult maps. Firstly, there are a lot of pinch points that you need to be aware of when compared to previous maps, as it's very easy for a casual player to get trapped.
This is a much tighter map. Don't hold out too long. If things look like they're getting rough, get out of there. It's time to go.
Also, there aren't any super easy training locations like the stage on Kino or Flopper Lander on Ascension. Some other factors that contribute to Shang's reputation as being difficult include the lack of traps, the absence of dog rounds to give you a break, and the presence of special enemies that spawn in mid-round. Speaking of special enemies, the Shriekers are truly despicable creatures. Whenever one of these bastards shriek in my general direction, I just close my eyes and hope for the best, cause I'm not in the mood to be blinded by some third-rate special enemy. I mean, look at this screenshot. You can't see anything. The only thing worse than it is when you try standing underneath the water on the map, but at least it's voluntary. Shangri-La also featured the baby gun, which is a pretty damn cool wonder weapon, as you get to shrink the enemies into little baby zombies, and then kick their asses into the atmosphere. I have a question for you all, alright? A little quiz action. Do you know what the official name is for the wonder weapon on this map? Of course you don't. It's the 31-79 space JG lowercase b215. Sounds like a name that Elon Musk would give to his kid. For all the thought put into giving the wonder weapon an obscure name, the community just tossed that aside and ended up calling it the baby gun. I guess Jimmy Z quickly learned his lesson, as the wonder weapon in the follow map was simply named Wave Gun. One of my favorite aspects of Shangri-La is the starting room area. It's an unintentional masterpiece of game design. It's sort of funny how Treyarch used to design better first room areas before they knew that first room challenges were actually a thing. Like, when Black Ops 4 came out, they were fully conscious of a first room community. Yet, none of those maps have any interesting starting areas. In fact, it's quite the contrary, where they include stuff like a customizable perk machine in the Voyage of Despair first room, or the ability to get a pack-a-punch pistol in the 9 first room by completing challenges. And that's not to mention how gobblegums and other stuff like that affect modern first rooms either.
You know, I'd hear about first room challenges, for example, something that we never put in the game, never intended. And what they do is they play the game and they won't open the doors, they'll stay in the first room. So with the custom mutation system, we actually bake that in so that you can actually manufacture that. You can create your own first room challenge within the system and then get a certificate to say that you did it.
I don't know of a single soul who manufactured a first room challenge rule set to use in the custom mutations option in Black Ops 4. But thank you for the sentiment, Jason. Anyways, where the hell was I? Oh yeah, Shang's first room, amazing. From the symmetry of the M14 and Olympia Isles, to the simplicity of 4 window barriers, the ability to dolphin dive off this barrier over here if you have the PSG flopper perk, and of course, that wouldn't be possible if not for the incredible feature of flipping max ammos into perk bottles using the monkeys. The hectic nature of the first room is always very fun to me, but for first rooms, whenever the strategy becomes mastered and highly repetitive, it makes it a little less interesting in my opinion. Nothing wrong with trying to create an optimal strategy and rulebook for how to run a particular first room. After all, you want to reach as high a round as possible. But at a certain point, the strategies become a bit too precise and clean for my liking. I like a little dirt and grit in my double backs. And in my underpants. Shangri-La marked the continuation of what I call Generation 2 high rounders, who I mentioned all the way back in my Call of the Dead retrospective. A playlist with all my zombie retrospectives will be in the description below. Now, I can't remember what the hell I said about Gen 2 players in that old video, but when I hear the name Gen 2, I think of players like Rumpy Doo-Doo, Halderson, Brown Magician, etc. They were typically the type of players who would call you names like Scrub, Random, Bad Kid, hell. The ultimate honor is being bestowed with the title of BK Random. Some other notable figures on Shang during this period included a variety of really good French players. It was the French New Wave. You had players like GFG, Arrow Riders, Defoncer, Sartinios, Dims, and so on. There's a lot that could be said about the evolution of strategies and records for Shangri-La, so I'll give a quick rundown of how it unfolded back in the day. The first effective strategy utilized was the running of trains in the MPL area on solo. If you were playing co-op, you would usually have one guy at the MPL area and the other in the cave by the AK-74U, and then the two players would converge. Once players became a bit more sophisticated, they improved the strategy by having both players at the MPL area, one at the minecart and one by the wall weapon. You see, back then, the map was such an anomaly in terms of difficulty that players on YouTube had to resort to making convoluted diagrams in order to explain their strategies, such as this fantastic guide from the player Conix E.
There are 2 pinch points in the lower MPL running area. Here's a zombie at the first pinch point. See that white pillar base? It marks the center of this side of the square structure. Look, run, shoot. Look, run, shoot. Then I'm going to use the space for the other path, but it requires you to double back. A lot of this is personal preference. Peace!
Relaxin' End also made a diagram showing off his MPL strategy that he used to round 100 plus. And the Sharpie that he used in this video is almost like the origin story for his career as an unintentional ASMR YouTuber. In any case, the map sort of had a mini resurgence in late 2011 and early 2012, where players developed a strategy where one guy ran in the cave and the other dude sort of popped up and down the water geyser. This new strategy was faster, safer, and certainly made people wet, as it was a lot more efficient compared to the previous strategies. Except, there was one little problem that would pose a threat to people's high round runs. The G-spawn error. I think the error message is pretty well known at this point, not only on Shang, but for its looming presence on a variety of maps. I guess it's not so much of an issue anymore because people finally realized how to prevent it on Shangri-La, but back in the day it utterly mystified players. People had all sorts of wild theories as to what exactly caused it. Was it related to the console you played on? Too many spike moors on the map? Too many bullets shot? Shooting the baby gun on a hill? Shooting the upgraded version of the baby gun too often? Maybe the existence of fog by the bridge. That was an actual classic Chongbong theory, by the way. Flash forward to 2014, when players finally discovered that the G-spawn error on Shang was due to shooting the baby gun and allowing the baby zombies to regrow, and if this happened enough times throughout the duration of a game, it would eventually crash your match.
Rambo, are you gonna mention modern strategies and the variations of the M16 strat for solo and co-op?
You know, I'm glad you asked. No, I'm not. You could watch the Johnny J25 series on World Record Runs if you want to know that. As per usual, I'll end the video with fun facts and features of the map that I feel like mentioning. Shangri-La is the first map to feature female zombies, which makes the map quite progressive. You see, that'll be my little thumbnail phrase, where I trick you into thinking that the map is progressive for its gameplay features like the spike moors. The map turns dark during one of the steps in the Easter egg, which gives it a really nice look in my opinion. Having the option to play during the night would have been a cool feature, but perhaps the novelty of it would wear thin if it was always an option. Also, the Easter egg on this map is absolute crap, as you need 4 players in order to complete it. How the hell am I supposed to find 3 other people to do the Easter egg with in 2020 if I can't even find 3 people in a damn public lobby? I mean, seriously, apart from the completely inaccurate player base numbers on this game, you try searching a public lobby on Shang, and it tells you that it's finding good games. Then some time passes and it gives you another message where it says it's trying to find more good games. Then whenever you think there's some progress being made, the screen suddenly gets a buffering symbol in the bottom right. Then after all that time of waiting, they'll just throw you in a lobby by yourself, and you need to wait for other players to join your game now. Well, okay, I'll wait a bit. Then finally, some jackass joins, probably the only poor soul search in this map. And you gotta do your due diligence and check his round on the leaderboards to make sure he's not a modder. Then okay, we're in the clear. He's not a modder, just an absolute BK random. Now it's time to ready up after all that trouble. But then, oh, what do you know? The game decided to migrate hosts and kicks you from the lobby.
We couldn't answer that for you. It's a bit above the technical stuff is like ones and zeros. Unfortunately, sorry.
Do you have your own internet, or are you like using your neighbor's wireless?
Shangri-La is somewhat unique for a Black Ops map insofar as the perk machine locations are pseudo-random. Perks like Deadshot, Flopper, Double Tap, and Stamina Up are randomized much like the huts in Shinanuma, whereas perks like Speed Cola and Jug will have 2 different spawning locations, which was an idea followed up in Moon with those same 2 perks being randomized in No Man's Land. The elemental catalyst enemies in some of the BO4 Zombies maps are basically recycled versions of the Flamer and Shrieker zombies from Shang, and yes, they blind the hell out of you in that game as well. The spawn area of Shangri-La appeared in the Black Ops 3 map Revelations, along with Shang being fully remastered in 2017 as part of the Zombies Chronicles DLC pack. One of the trailers for Shangri-La showed a shot of Dempsey by a trap switch near the waterfall. The physical trap switch itself never appeared in the final version of the map, but there is a button prompt that tells you not to hold the button. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I always thought this button was like a joke or something, where you pressed it and nothing significant happened. Well, I guess that's still kinda true. But it's supposed to cause the zombies to be temporarily swept away by the water, and could be used more than once? Yeah, I'll be sure to use this trap in future runs. Shang is the only BO1 DLC map with monkey bombs. And no, the World at War remasters don't count as DLC, so I better not see any jackasses type that in the comment section. And finally, Shang is the only BO1 DLC map to not introduce a new perk. Part of this could be attributed to the fact that the map was supposedly made in a very short period of time.
Usually we don't have a whole lot of time to make these maps, so it's all happening simultaneously. So
sometimes
we used
as little as 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we used to actually record anymore, so we just have to cut line categories. So.
Don't hold out too long. If things look like they're getting rough, get out of there. It's time to go.
Well, that's Shang for you. I only have 1 retrospective left in this ill-fated series, so that's good news for both of us. By the way, this hack TheSmithPlays named his review series Zombies Retrospectives as well. I don't know, maybe I ripped off the name from someone too, but I can't even remember at this point because the series has been going on for well over a year now. Anyways, adios.
My Shangri-La beneath the summer moon, I will return again.